The room was charged with pride. Banners lined the walls. An American flag hung large behind the stage. Uniformed men and women sat shoulder to shoulder inside the massive hangar at Naval Station Norfolk. Military music played softly in the background as families waved miniature flags, and the Navy brass straightened their jackets. But all eyes shifted when a name was called over the PA system. Commander Elena Ramirez, please come forward. The applause was immediate, loud, earned. A tall, confident woman in her decorated Navy whites stepped into the spotlight. At 38, Commander Ramirez had built a sterling reputation, 2 deployments in the Pacific, a leadership award from the Pentagon, and known among her sailors as both relentless and fair. She wasn't just respected. She was admired. And today she was about to be promoted to captain. Even more significant, the ceremony's special guest, former President Donald Trump, invited by the Department of Veterans Affairs as a keynote speaker. Cameras from military news outlets and local affiliates recorded every second. As Commander Ramirez approached the stage, Trump turned toward her with a smile, holding the small box containing the Silver Eagle insignia of a Navy captain. He extended his hand. She shook it firmly, then took a breath, and delivered the moment that would make headlines across the country. I respectfully decline the promotion, sir, gasped. Someone in the front row dropped their phone. President Trump froze, his hand still midair. The murmur through the crowd grew louder. It wasn't just unexpected, it was unheard of. Promotions in the military are the highest badge of trust and honor. Refusing one, that was career suicide. The silence was thick. Even the music had stopped. Trump leaned forward toward the mic. Excuse me? Ramirez remained calm. I said, I decline the promotion, Mr. President. Not because I don't want it, but because I can't accept it in good conscience. Now everyone was listening. Even the Secret Service agents seemed to pause. She turned slightly to the audience. Sailors, commanders, and families all watching her every move. I've worn this uniform with pride, she began. I've served in war zones. I've made sacrifices. But I'm standing here today not for myself, but for every woman in the U.S. Navy who has been overlooked, mistreated, and told to stay silent. Trump's smile faded. I've mentored incredible women, she continued, talented officers, brave sailors, but I've watched them get passed over for promotions, ignored when they spoke up about abuse, and discharged when they refused to play politics. Her voice didn't shake. It wasn't anger, it was resolve. And now, while some of those same women have been forced out, I'm being asked to move up. She turned back to Trump. Sir, with all due respect, I don't want this promotion unless something changes. Not for me, for them. The air was electric. You could hear the creak of folding chairs as people leaned in. Trump, usually quick to respond, stayed unusually quiet. He looked at his aides, then at the admiral behind him, then back at Commander Ramirez. This wasn't a political ambush. There was no protest sign, no drama, just one officer using her voice in the most unexpected way. Commander, Trump finally said, I'm not sure what you expect me to do. Her reply was immediate. I expect you to listen, she said. Not just to me, to the thousands of women who serve with distinction but live in fear of speaking out. She looked out into the sea of uniforms. I've seen harassment brushed under the rug. I've seen commanders protect their own instead of their people. I've filed reports and watched them disappear. Someone in the crowd stood up and began clapping. Then another, and another. Within seconds, more than a dozen sailors, male and female, were standing in applause. A commanding officer tried to hush the crowd, but it was too late. The room had taken Ramirez's side, and she wasn't done. I'm not asking for sympathy, she said. I'm asking for leadership, for a message, for accountability. Then she reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded letter. This, she said, is a list of 17 female sailors, all from my command over the last 6 years, who filed harassment claims and received no justice. Some left the Navy. Some are still waiting for answers. She handed it to Trump. He took it slowly, Now it was Trump's turn to speak, and for once he wasn't talking off a script. He looked down at the letter, then out at the crowd. "I've met thousands of men and women in uniform," he said. "I've seen strength in all forms. But what you just did, that takes guts." He paused. "You came here today knowing this could cost you your career, that you'd be criticized, and you still did it." He looked up at her, softened. "Commander Ramirez, you might not want the promotion today, but I promise you, people are going to hear what you said. This doesn't end in this hangar." Turning to the military brass behind him, Trump raised the paper in his hand. "Gentlemen, if there's truth in this list, then someone has to answer for it. I don't care if you wear 4 stars or 2. A ripple of unease crossed the stage. "I'm not in office anymore," he continued, "but I still care about every American who puts on this uniform, especially the ones who get ignored." He looked back at Ramirez. "You have my respect." The moment didn't end there. Within hours, the video clip exploded across the internet. It was shared by veterans, celebrities, even current senators. The hashtags #StandWithRamirez and #SilentNoMore surged to the top of Twitter and TikTok. CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC all ran the story. The military was forced to respond. The Department of the Navy announced an internal review of harassment and reporting procedures. More women came forward, not just from the Navy, but across all branches. Commander Ramirez gave only one interview. In it, she said, "Leadership isn't about medals or titles. It's about standing up when everyone expects you to stay quiet." Back at Norfolk, Ramirez continued her duties. She declined further interviews, refused speaking tours, and avoided social media. Weeks later, the Navy issued a statement. They were reopening investigations into several of the cases Ramirez had submitted. The promotion she had declined, it remained on the table. But this time, something had changed. At a private ceremony, without press, Ramirez stood beside a dozen female officers, including some of the women from her letter, and accepted her rank of captain. She didn't make a speech. She didn't need to. Her actions had already spoken louder than any award ever could.